What's up, guys? My name is Tim Roswick, and today we're going to talk about why game development is entrepreneurship. So, I've got a lot of questions lately on email, on Twitter, a lot of different places, a lot in my Discord actually, and people ask something similar along the lines of, paraphrasing, Tim, do you think it's still possible to make it as an indie game developer? Tim, do you think the indie apocalypse is real? Tim, do you think there's still room for people to make great games and make money with it? I personally have videos on this channel talking about how risky game development is, but I wanted to make a video that kind of described my thoughts on where I stand with the riskiness of the business, how I approach it, what I think about it. So first of all, I just want to be very, very clear. Games are risky. Most games will fail. Most games will fail. Let me just say that. Most games will fail. I just want you to hear that. But there's nothing wrong with that. Let me paint you a different picture. Most businesses will fail. 90% of businesses fail in their first 5 years. And another 90% of those businesses fail again in the next 5 years. So barely any businesses survive 10 years. Across the board, any companies that people start, it's just boom, doesn't work out. I personally have started 6 companies. I'm trying to count with my fingers. 6 companies. 5 of them are failures that have lost money, never got launched, had rough issues with whatever. 5 of them completely failed. 1 of them I sold. Okay? That's how it works. You're going to have a bunch of failures usually before your first success. There are outliers, yes. There are things where people are super successful in their first try. I'm not one of those guys. Most people will not be one of those guys. This is hard. Business is hard. Game development is hard. Releasing games is hard. Marketing games is hard. All this stuff is hard. But you got to look at it like a business. Games are not separate from the entire world of business, right? There are things that apply to both. If you're trying to sell a product, people need to know the product exists. They have to like the product. You know what I mean? Game developers feel like they're immune and they're just like, oh, I should be able to push a game out on Steam and it makes millions of dollars and then I should call it a day. No, that's not how it works, right? Like, I get the same thing with app guys, because I do like some freelance stuff, and every once in a while I'll get a dude that's like, yo, you develop apps, right? You make stuff. I'll be like, yeah. And they'll be like, I have this idea. It's $1 million idea for a startup, for an app. And I just need somebody to help me build it. And then I'll give them 50%. Like, that's cliche. It's like the idea guy, right? But it happens a lot. People legit think that like they're just going to push stuff out there or somebody's going to have to build it. And like, it's just going to make millions of dollars. Like, it's just going to happen. That's not how it happens. Like, the companies that are successful, the companies that make it, are the companies that worked for it, the companies that didn't stop, the companies that evolved over time, right? Like, there's so many companies that just got stomped out and destroyed because other people came in, changed the game, and they didn't do anything about it. Blockbuster got destroyed because it didn't adapt to the online model like Netflix was doing, or the DVDs by mail, right? Like, if you're just sitting there waiting and bitching about how stuff doesn't work in your favor, you're not going to get anywhere. So how I approach game development, I'm never going to leave it up to chance whether or not I'm successful, right? I am not going to say, just push a game out there and just say, cross my fingers, hope it does well, right? That's not me. That was never me. I never intended to do that, because I know the struggle of this. I've been through this before. I've had 5 companies fail. Do you know how it feels to work, you put your heart and soul into something like for months or years at a time, and like you realize nobody needs it, or realize you built the wrong piece of technology, or realize you built something that's like a clone of something else that people already use? Like, it sucks, man. And as a game developer, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that feel the same way. There are plenty of people that spend a year or 2 or remortgage their house or something working on a game, and they push it out there and no one buys it. It's because the game development is not the critical component. You got to understand the business. You got to understand the components of business. You got to understand, okay, people don't buy stuff they don't know about, right? People don't buy stuff they don't like. So how do I get more people to know about it? And how do I get those people to like it? That's what you got to understand. And you got to be willing to go the length that it takes to get to those places. And you got to be willing to take failure and eat it and go through hard shit, right? Like, I am building a community here. Game Dev Underground is a community. It's all of you lovely people, all of you wonderful, beautiful people that watch me on YouTube. You guys are aware of the things that I create, not just games, right? Like anything that I create, if it's a Patreon or working on a book, or I'm working on all different things that I'm creating, and I'm making you guys aware of it, right? You're finding out about it because I put myself out there. I share my information. I'm visible on the internet. I'm searchable on the internet. I speak at conferences. I do things. I reach out to other channels. I interact with people. I try my best to be visible on the internet. And because of that, people see me. They remember my name. I'm building a large network of people on the internet that recognize me. So when I release something or I push something out or I'm working on something, I can let all those people know, right? So by default, even though, like, let's say, okay, I have a game dev channel, so it's a little bit different because I talk about game dev related stuff. So game developers aren't necessarily my target audience, but guess what? If I release a game and someone that doesn't have a YouTube channel releases a game, who do you think is going to sell more copies by default? Just by default. Even if my entire community is not my target market, even if, nothing happens, even if straight up, by default, I'm going to sell more copies because more people know about what I'm doing, right? And you gotta look at this like a business. Eliminate the risks, reduce the risks wherever you can, if you can eliminate them, right? Like, don't take big, massive risks. Don't say, I'm going to remortgage my house and spend 2 years figuring out how to make a video game and then release the game, right? Don't do that. Like, think about what you're doing. Think about how to get more people to see it. Think about how to get more people to like it. Think ahead of what you're doing and really like put thought into this. And, don't just do it on a whim. Like, I have a whole video about building an audience. I have a whole video about reducing risks. All this is concepts I've talked about before, but I really wanted to drill it in your head that being an independent game developer, making games on your own and trying to make a living from it or trying to make money from it is a business. And it is a risky business, right? But businesses themselves are super risky. By default, they are super risky. So I just wanted to share that with you and get that off my chest. Hope you found it useful. If you did, leave me a like and a comment down below. Once again, my name is Tim Roswick, and I'll see you again tomorrow.